stop scrolling, because what you're about to hear might change how you see your entire life. Imagine waking up one day, 50 years from now, sitting alone in a quiet room, holding your old dreams in your hands and realizing you never lived them. This is not just a story. This is a warning. There was a woman, just like you, just like anyone watching this right now. She had dreams, big ones. She wanted to become something. She wanted to travel. She wanted to live a life that mattered. But life happened. Do it later, they said. Focus on responsibilities first. They said, there's plenty of time, she told herself. And she believed it. Days passed, months passed, years passed, and without even realizing it, her life turned into a routine. She kept giving. She kept sacrificing. She kept waiting for the right time. But here's the truth no one tells you. The right time never comes. And one day, everything changed. She was 75 years old, sitting alone, no responsibilities left, no noise, no rush, just silence and memories. She opened an old notebook, the one she once filled with dreams, and as she turned the pages, her hands started shaking, her eyes filled with tears, because every single dream she wrote stayed on paper. She whispered something that will break your heart. If only I had started earlier. Think about that for a second. Not because she failed, but because she never even tried. And right now, as you're watching this, you might be doing the same thing. Delaying your dreams, ignoring that voice inside you, telling yourself, I'll start tomorrow. But what if tomorrow never comes? What if one day you become that person, sitting in silence, holding your dreams, and realizing you traded your entire life for later? This story is not about her. It's about you. And by the end of this video, you're going to ask yourself a question that might make you uncomfortable, but it could also change everything. Are you truly living or just passing time? Watch till the end, because this story might be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. At the age of 25, Aisha stood by the window, watching the world move forward, while her own life quietly stood still. It was early morning. The sunlight was just beginning to spread across the sky, painting everything in soft golden colors. Outside, people were rushing to their jobs, students were heading to their colleges, and the world felt alive with purpose. But inside that small room, Aisha felt something very different, a strange emptiness she couldn't explain. Just a few months ago, her life looked completely different. She had just completed her studies. She was full of energy, full of hope, and full of dreams. She wanted to become a teacher. She imagined herself standing in a classroom, inspiring young minds, shaping futures, and building a life she could be proud of. Sometimes she would sit for hours writing in her notebook, planning her future, setting goals, imagining the places she would travel and the person she would become. She believed her life was just beginning, but everything changed faster than she expected. One evening, her parents called her into the living room. Their expressions were serious, but there was a hint of excitement in their eyes. Aisha, we found a good proposal for you, her mother said softly. Her heart skipped a beat. A proposal? She asked, unsure. Yes, her father replied. The family is respectable, the man is settled, and this is a great opportunity for your future. Aisha felt a storm of emotions rising inside her. She wasn't against marriage, but she wasn't ready either. She had plans. She had dreams. She had a vision for her life. But what about my career? She asked hesitantly. Her parents exchanged glances. You can think about that later, her mother said gently. Right now, this is what's best for you. That sentence stayed with her. This is what's best for you. She wanted to argue. She wanted to explain how important her dreams were. But deep down, she trusted her parents. She believed they knew better. And like many young women, she chose silence over resistance. Within weeks, everything moved quickly. Relatives started visiting. Preparations began. Her house, once calm and familiar, turned into a place filled with noise, laughter, and constant activity. Everyone seemed happy, except her. She smiled when she had to. She nodded when people spoke to her. But inside, there was a quiet fear growing stronger every day. On the night before her wedding, she sat alone in her room, holding her old notebook, the one filled with her dreams. She flipped through the pages slowly. Each word felt heavier now. Each dream felt further away. Tears filled her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Maybe I can still do all this later, she whispered to herself. That was the moment everything changed. Not the wedding, not the new home, but that single thought, I'll do it later. Because later is the most dangerous word when it comes to dreams. The next day, Aisha got married. A new chapter of her life began, but it wasn't the one she had written for herself. Her new home was different. New people, new expectations, new responsibilities. Everything felt unfamiliar. In the beginning, she told herself it was just a phase. I just need time to adjust, she thought. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Her routine became predictable. Wake up early, prepare breakfast, clean the house, take care of family needs. Repeat. At first, she tried to hold on to her dreams. Sometimes late at night, she would open her notebook again. She would read her goals and imagine herself achieving them. But slowly, those moments became rare. She was always tired. There was always something more important to do. There's no time today, she would tell herself. I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Her world became smaller. The classroom she once dreamed of was replaced by a kitchen. The books she loved were replaced by endless chores. The freedom she once felt was replaced by responsibilities she never questioned. And the most painful part? No one forced her to give up her dreams. She did it herself little by little, day by day, because she believed that sacrificing her dreams was the right thing to do, because she believed she had time. Years passed, but Aisha didn't notice how fast they were going. Life became a routine, and routine became her identity. She stopped thinking about what she wanted and started focusing only on what needed to be done. And just like that, time stopped for her, not in the literal sense, but in the way that matters most. She was alive, but not truly living. She was moving, but not moving forward. She was breathing, but not growing. And the girl who once had big dreams, big plans, and a bright future slowly disappeared. Standing at that same window years later, she would often wonder, when did I lose myself? But the truth was, she didn't lose herself in one moment. She lost herself in small decisions, in quiet compromises, in the belief that she could always start later. And that is how, without even realizing it, Aisha lost the most important thing she had, her time. Years passed, and Aisha slowly became someone she never imagined she would be, someone who lived entirely for others. Her mornings began before the sun had even risen. The world outside was still quiet, but inside her home, her day had already started. She would step out of bed carefully, making sure not to wake anyone, and head straight to the kitchen. The routine was always the same. Prepare breakfast, pack lunches, clean the house, wash clothes, organize everything before anyone even asked. At first, she did it with love, and she truly meant it. She wanted to be a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, and eventually a good mother. And when her children were born, her world changed completely. They became her priority, her happiness, her reason to keep going. Every smile on their faces made her forget her own exhaustion. Every small achievement of theirs felt like her own success. But with that love came an even deeper level of sacrifice. Her time was no longer hers. Her energy was no longer hers. Even her thoughts were no longer hers. Everything revolved around her family. If her children needed something, she would drop everything for them. If her husband had a long day, she would ignore her own fatigue and make sure he felt comfortable. If there was any problem in the house, she would carry it silently, without complaint. She became the person everyone relied on, but no one stopped to ask, who was Aisha relying on? Days turned into years, and the pattern never changed. She became so used to putting herself last that it no longer felt like a choice. It felt like her duty. Sometimes, in rare, quiet moments, she would sit alone and feel something strange, something heavy in her chest. It wasn't physical pain. It was something deeper, a feeling of being lost. That quiet voice inside her still existed. It hadn't disappeared. It would whisper softly, "What about your dreams? but she had become an expert at ignoring it. Not now, she would tell herself. This is not the right time. My family needs me more. And so she kept going. There were moments when she got close to doing something for herself. Once, she saw an advertisement for a teaching course. Her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, the old Aisha came back, the one who dreamed of standing in a classroom. She picked up the paper, read every detail, and imagined herself joining. But then reality stepped in. Who will take care of the house? She thought. What will people say? Is it even worth it at this stage? She folded the paper and placed it aside. That small moment, that small decision, was another piece of her dream slipping away. And this didn't happen just once. It happened again and again. Opportunities came, but she let them go, not because she wasn't capable, but because she had convinced herself that her dreams were no longer important, that her role in life was only to serve others. And the most dangerous part of this mindset, it feels right. It feels noble. People praise her. You're such a caring woman. Your family is lucky to have you. You've sacrificed so much. These words gave her temporary comfort. But deep inside, something was missing, because appreciation can never replace fulfillment. Years went by, and her children grew older. They started going to school, making friends, building their own lives. Slowly, they became more independent. The house that was once filled with constant noise and activity began to feel quieter. At first, Aisha didn't know how to react. She had spent so many years being needed every second of the day, and now, suddenly, she wasn't. Her responsibilities started to reduce. She had more time, more space, more silence. And that's when everything began to feel different. For the first time in decades, she wasn't busy all the time. She could sit down without worrying about the next task. She could rest. She could think. But instead of feeling peaceful, she felt uncomfortable because she didn't know what to do with herself. She had forgotten how to live for herself. One afternoon, she sat alone in the living room, staring at the wall. Hours passed, but she didn't move. Her mind was full of questions. What do I enjoy? What do I want? Who am I beyond all these roles? But there were no answers, because she had spent so long being everything for everyone else that she had lost connection with her own identity. It was a painful realization. She wasn't just tired physically. She was empty emotionally. All those years of silent sacrifice had taken something from her, something she could never get back, her sense of self. And yet no one noticed. From the outside, everything looked perfect. A happy family, a stable life, a respected woman. But inside, there was a quiet loneliness growing stronger each day. Not the kind of loneliness where you are alone, but the kind where you feel alone even when surrounded by people. Because no one truly knows what you've given up. No one sees the dreams you buried. No one hears the voice you silenced. And that's why it's called a silent sacrifice. Because it happens without noise, without drama, without anyone realizing the cost. Aisha never complained. She never blamed anyone. But deep inside, she began to understand something important. Sacrificing everything for others might make you a good person, but it can slowly erase who you are. And the scariest part? It doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in small choices. Every time you say, I'll do it later. Every time you ignore your own needs. Every time you put yourself last. Until one day, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. And that's exactly what happened to Aisha. She gave everything to others, but in the process, she lost herself completely. At the age of 75, Aisha sat quietly in a small, dimly lit room surrounded by silence that felt heavier than ever before. The house was still the same, but everything inside it had changed. The walls that once echoed with laughter were now quiet. The rooms that were once full of life now felt empty. Her children had grown up, built their own families, and moved on with their lives. And Aisha, she was left behind with time. Too much time. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, she reached for an old wooden box placed near her bed. It was something she hadn't opened in years, maybe decades. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the lid. Inside were pieces of her past, old photographs, letters, small memories she had forgotten. And at the bottom of the box, there it was, her notebook, the same notebook she once filled with dreams, hopes, and plans for her future. For a moment, she just stared at it. Her heart began to beat faster. It felt like she was about to meet someone she hadn't seen in a very long time, her younger self. Slowly, she picked it up and opened the first page. The handwriting was neat, full of confidence and excitement. Become a teacher, travel the world, write a book, make a difference. Each line felt like a voice from the past, calling out to her, her eyes filled with tears. She turned the pages one by one. Every word carried a dream she once believed in. Every sentence reminded her of a version of herself that no longer existed. "How did I forget all of this?" she whispered softly. But deep down, she knew the answer. She didn't forget. She postponed. Again and again, until there was nothing left to postpone. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time, she didn't try to stop them. She let herself feel everything she had ignored for years. Regret, not the kind that comes from failure, but the kind that comes from never trying. "I could have done this," she murmured. "I had the time. I had the chance." Her voice broke, but I didn't. That realization hit her harder than anything else. It wasn't that life had taken her dreams away. She had let them go, piece by piece, choice by choice, excuse by excuse. For years, she had told herself the same thing: "I'll start later." But now, sitting in that quiet room at 75, she understood a truth that felt almost unbearable. Later had turned into never. She looked around the room. Everything she had worked for was there: a home, a family, stability. From the outside, it looked like a successful life. But inside, there was a deep emptiness she couldn't ignore anymore, because success without fulfillment feels incomplete. She didn't regret loving her family. She didn't regret caring for them. But she regretted one thing deeply: losing herself in the process. "I gave everything," she whispered. Then she paused. "But I never gave anything to myself." That sentence stayed in the air, heavy and painful. For the first time in her life, Aisha allowed herself to ask a question she had avoided for decades. "What about me?" And the answer was silence, because she had never taken the time to find out. Hours passed as she sat there, lost in memories. She remembered the young girl who once believed she could achieve anything. The girl who had confidence. The girl who had dreams. The girl who had a future she was excited about. And now, that girl felt like a stranger. Aisha slowly stood up and walked toward the mirror. She looked at her reflection, wrinkles on her face, tired eyes, a life full of experiences, but also full of mischances. She stared at herself for a long moment. "Is this who I want to become?" she asked quietly. There was no answer, because the truth was too clear. This wasn't the life she had planned. This was the life she had settled for. And that realization hurt more than anything else. People often fear failure, but Aisha realized something far worse: regret. Failure at least means you tried. Regret means you didn't even give yourself a chance. She closed her eyes and imagined what her life could have been. She pictured herself as a teacher, standing in front of class, inspiring students. She imagined traveling, seeing new places, experiencing the world. She imagined writing a book, sharing her thoughts, leaving something meaningful behind. All those possibilities, all those versions of her life, gone, not because they were impossible, but because she never made them a priority. A single tear rolled down her cheek as she whispered, "If only I had started earlier." But time doesn't go backwards. No matter how much you wish for it, no matter how much you regret it, time only moves forward. And that's what makes it so precious and so dangerous. Because while you think you still have time, it's quietly running out. Aisha walked back to her bed and sat down again, holding her notebook close to her chest. For a moment, she thought about starting now. "Maybe I can still do something," she said softly. And, in a way, she was right. It's never truly too late to try. But she also knew something else. Starting late is always harder than starting early. The energy is not the same. The opportunities are not the same. The time is not the same. And most importantly, the regrets are already there. She smiled faintly, but it was a sad smile, not because her life had no value, but because it had so much more potential that was never explored. And that's when the biggest realization came to her. Life doesn't wait for the right time. If you don't choose your dreams, life will choose something else for you. And before you realize it, years will pass, decades will pass, and one day you'll wake up and ask yourself, where did all the time go? Aisha had her answer. She had lived her life for others, but she had forgotten to live it for herself. And now, all she could do was hold on to the lesson, even if it came too late for her. It doesn't have to be too late for you. Aisha's story doesn't end with regret. It ends with a lesson so powerful, so real, that it has the ability to change lives, if only people are willing to listen. Because the truth is, Aisha's life is not unique. There are thousands, even millions of people living the same story right now. People who wake up every day, follow the same routine, fulfill every responsibility, but slowly lose themselves in the process. People who keep saying, I'll start later. But Aisha's life teaches us something very important. Later is an illusion. It feels safe. It feels comfortable. It feels like you still have control. But in reality, later is just a quiet way of saying never. And that's the first lesson you must never ignore. 1. If you don't prioritize your dreams, no one else will. Aisha spent her entire life waiting for the right time. She thought once things settled, once responsibilities reduced, once everything was perfect, she would finally focus on herself. But life never becomes perfect. There's always something to do, always someone to take care of, always another responsibility waiting. And if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you will keep waiting forever. The truth is simple. You have to choose your dreams, even if it's uncomfortable, even if people don't understand, even if you have to start small. Because if you don't make that choice, life will make a different choice for you. 2. Balance is not selfish. It's necessary. Aisha believed that caring for herself would make her selfish. So she gave everything to others. Her time, her energy, her identity. But in the end, she realized something she wished she had understood earlier. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's essential. You can love your family and still have dreams. You can fulfill responsibilities and still grow as a person. You can give to others without losing yourself. Life is not about choosing between you and them. It's about creating a balance where both can exist. Because when you completely ignore yourself, you don't just lose your dreams. You lose your sense of purpose. 3. Small steps matter more than big plans. Aisha didn't fail because she lacked ability. She failed because she never started. She kept waiting for the perfect opportunity to do something big. But big changes don't happen all at once. They start with small steps. A single decision, a few minutes a day, a small effort repeated consistently. If Aisha had spent even 30 minutes a day on her dreams, her life could have been completely different. That's the power of small actions. They don't feel important in the moment, but over time, they shape your entire life. So don't wait to make a huge change. Start with something small, but start today. 4. Time is your most valuable asset. Money can be earned again. Opportunities can come again. Even relationships can be rebuilt. But time, once it's gone forever. Aisha didn't realize the value of time when she had it. She thought she had plenty of it. But time has a way of moving quietly. You don't feel it slipping away. You don't notice it disappearing. Until one day, you look back and it's all gone. And that's when the regret begins. That's why this lesson matters more than anything else. Respect your time. Protect it. Use it wisely. Because your future is built on how you spend your present. 5. Regret is heavier than failure. One of the most painful truths Aisha discovered was this. Failure hurts, but regret hurts more. Failure means you tried and didn't succeed. Regret means you never gave yourself a chance. Aisha could have accepted failure. She could have handled rejection. She could have learned from mistakes. But what she couldn't escape was a feeling of what if she had tried? What if she had believed in herself? What if she had started earlier? Those questions stayed with her, and they had no answers, because the opportunity to find those answers was already gone. That's why it's better to try and fail than to never try at all. 6. Your life is your responsibility. It's easy to blame circumstances, family pressure, responsibilities, society, timing. Aisha had all these reasons, and they were real, but in the end, she understood something very important. No one is coming to build your life for you. People can guide you, they can support you, they can influence you, but the final choice is always yours. You decide what matters. You decide what to pursue. You decide how to spend your time. And every decision you make shapes your future. 7. Don't lose yourself while building a life for others. This is perhaps the most important lesson of all. Aisha built a beautiful life for her family. She gave them love, care, and support. But in doing so, she slowly disappeared. And that's the danger of silent sacrifice. It doesn't feel wrong at first. It feels like love. It feels like duty. But if you're not careful, it turns into loss. A loss of identity. A loss of dreams. A loss of self. And by the time you realize it, it's often too late. Aisha's story is not meant to make you feel sad. It's meant to wake you up, to make you think, to make you ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Am I truly living or just existing? Because one day, just like Aisha, you will sit with your thoughts. You will look back at your life. And in that moment, nothing will matter more than how you spend your time. Not excuses, not reasons, not what others expected from you. Only one thing will matter. Did you live the life you wanted or the life you settled for? The choice is in your hands. Right now, not tomorrow, not later, not someday. Because now is the only time you truly have. So don't wait. Don't delay. Don't silence that voice inside you. Start today, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's difficult. Because years from now, you don't want to be the person asking, what if? You want to be the person who says, I tried, I lived, and I didn't let my time slip away.